Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 62 of the Talking with the Dad podcast. This evening, Steve, what's going on special? What do we have special going on?
I don't know, man. I feel like people, like there's other people here for some reason. I haven't felt this way since I stopped taking the medication, but now I really do feel like there are people here. Like I get this eerie feeling that Cash is somewhere lurking around, that Greg is out there, man. I feel like people are watching me, and I know that no one's interested in a 39-year-old African American's day-to-day life, but I really do feel like there might be people watching me right now. It's inexplicable. Otherwise than that, Zach, what's going on with you?
Not much, man. Not much. I don't think there's really anything going on in life that's special other than angrily playing League all day, every day for the last few days. Not much else than that. Oh, also,
you thought I was going to do the sponsors bit, didn't you? That's why you paused up for a second.
I did. I thought I was getting thrown the sponsors. Thought I was going to get thrown the sponsors there. Of note, hold on a second. Shout out the audio listeners. We're going to cross 300 plays with this episode, most likely. I don't even know how many we're doing a day. We're doing almost. There are some days we're doing 50 plays a day on our audio side. So shout out the audio guys for sure. You guys are amazing. We're killing it. We're killing it.
Thanks for consuming the media. Come on over to YouTube and click on the link every once in a while too, and we'll love you more. We got merch coming out. Zach's paying for it. He sold most of his stuff so we can get merch. I mean, so the way that went down was we went down to Chinatown in the city, right? And,
yeah. I remember this. Pre-COVID, actually.
In COVID. Don't lie to the people. And I coughed on everything I saw. Got a bunch of free stuff. So now I'm going to give it to you guys.
I think that's a felony now.
It's a misdemeanor at most, man. Zach, just really quickly, man, as we're talking about misdemeanors, have you ever got hit with a misdemeanor charge before? I don't expect you to admit anything on live, but if you have, go ahead and wink your eye.
No. I don't think I've ever had anything more than a moving violation.
How does a guy like you go through life without at least one misdemeanor charge? It's not possible.
Luckily,
it's not possible.
Luckily, very luckily. Very, very, very quite luckily, actually.
We got some good topics here, man. We got some stuff that's going on in the world that's pretty intense. Pretty intense. I gotta admit, I expected topic 2 and 3 to immediately be striked by the time I signed on and checked the notes again today. But man, we got a lot of stuff going on.
We have to talk about those for sure. We have to talk about those. Yeah, a lot of good topics, I think. Steve, have you any funny stories from work recently? Every once in a while, you hit me with a funny story from work that listen, I haven't worked since. How long has it been? Months, April maybe. It was literally been April. It's been 6 months. I need a good funny work story, Steve. Start us off with a good funny work story before we get into these topics.
So here's the thing, right? I want to give you I was just scanning my mind thinking about a funny work story, but I got to tell you, work has been pain lately, man. There's not the humor has long left. I will tell you this though, right? Someone that works at the school was helping someone that came up to the counter, right? And he walked up, and this is in the midst of everything that's going on in this social political climate, right? And this guy walks up, sees a little person of color at the counter. No big deal. Little people of color at the counter all the time.
Like, hold on, but a child or
no? There are no children that work there. But if Cash is if Cash is still here, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So this guy walks up. This person says, "Hey, welcome to the school. Do you have your pickup form for the device you're getting today?" And the guy's like, "No." And the person says to him, "Well, do you have ID I can just see to verify that you are who you say you are before I hand you over your stuff?" He's like, "Of course I have ID. What do you think this is? I'm always walking around with ID." And I just looked up.
Oh my God.
I looked up from the person I was working with, and I made sure I made eye contact with this man, and I was just like, if you ever come in here with that wild boy shit again, there's going to be a problem. There's nothing funny happening at the school right now. Remember the good old days? No, that's not funny, man. I'm telling you right now, that Karen video that I showed you,
pretty good.
It doesn't compare to we got Karens, we got Kareems. Every race and creed and color that has their own Karen, they've all come in this month. And I know it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse because we're coming into Thanksgiving, bro. It's only getting worse. I had a mother scream at her husband in front of her stepchild and say, "You didn't tell me you spent $900 on this computer." And I looked at him. I was like, "Come on, man. Stand up for yourself, bro. You stand up for
Actually,
men
I got
right
it on
now.
sale for $3.99.
He's like, I'm sorry, dear. The African made me buy it. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, dude, I'm not African. I'm Jamaican. But it's a common misconception. That's all. No funny stories. But I can tell you the one thing about this, man. I do miss that 300-yard stare that you would have sometimes coming from the back area of the school. Like that could be needed in some of those moments, like where a person, when you explain to a person why they can't have 2 antiviruses, because this is information you think someone would just accept, like, oh, okay,
yeah,
makes sense.
Makes sense, right?
You tell, but when they start getting into filibustering and, like, my friend told me, I'm like, is your fucking friend here now, man? Like, is your friend? Did your friend fix your computer? Like, what did I just tell you? Get the no more service. Get out of here. You're not welcome back
That's
here.
awesome.
Otherwise than that, I'm struggling. I've been drinking 5 beers a day.
That's it?
6 monsters a day. Yeah,
okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of caffeine.
I literally feel my liver sliding out of my anus as we speak right now. But enough about my anus and my liver, even though that's a hot topic. What about you, man? You got any funny at-home stories for me?
No. My sleep schedule is shot. Absolutely shot, dude. I go to bed at like 7 in the morning and wake up at like 3 o'clock. Like, my sleep schedule is shot, dude.
I gotta ask you a question, man. For a guy that, like, hates, like, the word you used was hate, and you said I will never get pulled into this against you. How did you get back into League of Legends? Like, what's going on there, buddy?
Man, I got invited not too long ago to fill in for someone during like some like little minor event, and I don't even know how I got invited. I don't know how my name came up, but they lost their jungle, right? Jungle was a position in League, so I was like, all right, well, I'll play, right? And I played 2 games with them. I did about as well as I could have after not having played for, let's say a solid 18 months. A solid 18 months having not played, right? So I was like, okay, I'll play. I played okay, right? I played well enough. And then from then, I just kept fucking playing, and I've played like 10 games a day since. That was like 2 weeks ago, or like a week ago, like a solid week ago.
How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling all right. Some games are better than others. Some games are better. I had a pretty good last game. Yeah, I'm not gonna bore you with the details, but I had a pretty good last game, and yeah, here we are. We're here.
It's funny because I remember when we first started doing the show, it's like we just hit the anniversary mark of a year. But one of our earlier episodes when we were still gaming with a dad, you jumped in right after playing League with Cash.
I hadn't played.
Well, what night was it, man? Because you jumped in after playing League with these guys, and I just remember you were just like, "Let's just get to it, Steve." And I'm like,
it wasn't League. I bet you it was Tarkov. I bet you it wasn't League. I bet you it was Tarkov. I hadn't played League since.
No.
It had. Dude, I hadn't played League since 2018. I looked it up. The last time I had played League was 2018, prior to me starting again.
Maybe we were just playing it. Maybe we were just playing the division then. Maybe we weren't recording the show. I remember you coming in saying you were tanking, and one of the guys turned toxic on you, and you were just like, you flipped out. I hadn't seen you this angry ever before, and I was like, this doesn't sound like a good game to play at all.
It definitely isn't.
Oh, Greg, I seen your comment. Mid trays. Yeah, I could talk about that. So poor Gregory was in the back of the school one day, and someone comes back there with a bunch of mid trays, and they're like, hey, where do you want me to put these things? And Greg is like, yeah, just, we're busy right now. I'll come up there and get the mid trays from you when I'm ready to come get them. And then the guy comes back. I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, 25 minutes later with mid trays in his hand and that dead eye look in his eye. And he's like, hey, where do you want me to put these mid trays? And Greg's like, yeah, just throw them on the ground, man. Put him wherever you need him to go, bro. Put him wherever you need him to go. That's about it.
That's about. All right, let's get into some of the topics.
Let's get it. Where you starting?
Can we just talk about topic 1 for a minute, dude? I woke up out of a slumber at 1 p.m. the other day, and it had just been pretty much announced that Hecz was reacquiring the rights to Optic Gaming, and I almost cried. I was so happy. I was so fucking happy. And I'm curious to know what the deal was, right? Because his original deal, he was bought out as part of a $100 million buyout. I don't know what percentage of the company he owns still. 51, 75. I bet you still own majority. I don't even know if he owned majority, right? Because it got sold. He might have owned 35%, right? But the guy's worth tens of millions of dollars now, right? He is now, from what the reports that I've seen, the sole proprietor of Optic Gaming. He now has to get someone to buy his Call of Duty League spot, right? Because he can't have two, because he already has one under Huntsman, and he's still the co-CEO of Huntsman/Energy. Yeah, it's one of the single most exciting and turns of a story I've ever seen in my entire life.
All right, so walk me through it. So he bought the rights back to Optic. You're saying he can't have two teams. So what are you saying that he can't have Huntsman? Like he's no longer going to be affiliated with Huntsman?
No, he's keeping that. They're already an established team. They're in the market he wants to be in. He wants to either be in Dallas, is where the Empire is, or in Chicago. That's where his hometown is, right? So Huntsman's already there. He's going to do that, but he's going to sell off the Optic slot. Keep retaining the name of Optic, but that franchise slot he has, he's gonna either sell off, give it away, whatever it is. The other team that's gonna get it has to buy in to that now.
And they can't use obviously the license name. That's what.
Well, so he could license the name to them in theory, right?
Okay.
He now owns the rights to the name and the company of Optic, so it's pretty interesting.
It is interesting. So I remember when you first explained to me who Optic was, and I went and did my research and I watched all the videos and all the documentaries I could kind of scour and find on YouTube. And to hear when you put this on the topic list, I'm not someone that's really invested in it, right? But even I was like, wow, that's kind of beautiful. Like that's a kind of bookend to a story, and it's the way you would want to do something if you started something like, especially seeing it, how the last. How it was the last time he was officially involved with the team, to be able to acquire it back. Yeah. To be able to acquire it back and say, hey, I can either put this to death finally, or I can use it in a way that I want to. And it's like, I almost see some edited reel in the background again of that team from its inception. You got to start with that video. Have you ever seen the video of his original Call of Duty setup? Have you seen that before?
Yeah, of course. See, I remember when it was released. You got to remember, I've been in and around the scene and following the Optic and Call of Duty for as long as I can remember.
Dude, it's crazy because when you think. I'm not getting emotional, but I feel good for him. Yeah. I can't think of a better guy for this to happen to. I can't think of a smarter guy for this to happen to, because in the end, it's one of those things that Michael Jordan also wanted to do at one point. I can't go into what I'm talking about. It'd take too long. But there was a venture he started where he wanted to be able to buy his name back from this venture. And at this point, it would be
right.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it's got to be the shoes. It would be impossible for him to do it, but it's one of his biggest regrets that he
doesn't own the rights to his name.
Exactly. Right, he's in partnership over his name.
I'm curious if because I know in business school they use Wally Amos as a very good example of this. You know the story behind Famous Amos cookies?
I know Famous Amos, not the story. Sorry.
So Wally Amos is the guy who started and runs ran Famous Amos cookies in the 70s, whatever. He used to be an agent. He used to be an agent and like a musician and such inside of Hollywood. Made these cookies, grew this company huge, right? And then he needed more equity at times, or needed more capital at times. It would sell off equity, and he got diluted out. And he doesn't own the name Amos. He doesn't own that picture that they use on Famous Amos cookies. He doesn't even own his own likeness, essentially. And he got pretty much diluted out of everything he had. And just over time. Yeah, that's used in business school as the exact thing not to do when you like, you can't make it your own likeness, and you can't sell your picture, and you can't sell yourself, essentially. So
that happened to a lot of those old school Motown singers, and it's still actively happening to musicians now, where it's if you look at it, so the latest incident of it is obviously Beyonce. So you would think in Destiny's Child that she owns some of the rights to the music, some of the earlier stuff, the most popular. Most people don't. Nothing.
Most people don't.
Yeah, they don't.
Those the music industry contracts are very tricky. From what I've seen, they're very, very tricky. They're worded really weirdly. If you do certain things, you get kicked out. Right.
Yeah.
Another really famous one of that is Rick Astley. Rick Astley, the Never Gonna Give You Up song, the Rick Roll song. Yeah. He doesn't own any rights to it. Right. He doesn't own any rights to it. Has never made a dime off of that song other than what he was initially paid for it. And it was very, very minimal amount of money.
Same thing happened to the Beatles. That's obviously
The
famously why
Beatles,
Michael Jackson had, with
owned it.
Paul
Yep.
McCartney. Yep, yeah. So and we see that happening now. This is all time back into Hex, but we see that happening now with someone, say for instance, like Big Sean. And then I'll use Cash's favorite hip hop artist, Logic, as the contrast. So Big Sean signed a horrible deal with Kanye, who ironically just tweeted about artist freedom and artist rights and stuff like that. And actually, Kanye actually owes him $3 million. That's how bad the deal is, but he says he's gonna pay up for it. Beyonce obviously got screwed in her deal. DMX is one of the poorest, most successful sellingest rappers that's ever existed, and everyone that was on Motown, except for I believe Diana Ross and a few other people, they all got screwed.
Sure.
So, but when you look at a guy like Logic, so their first approach was someone coming to them and offering them a $2 million contract.
He
to
didn't
just
do
sign
it at all, right?
No, he didn't do it, and then that's why he's in a better place with that. Same thing with Jay-Z, man. Like he took control of his
Chance the
likeness.
Rapper is the same way. I believe
Yep.
J. Cole's the same
Yep.
way as well. No,
Yes,
well,
yeah.
he signed to Dreamville now, which might even be his own. I'm not sure, but I believe Chance the Rapper went platinum without any label or any features on an album.
Yeah, he so it's I don't know what the relationship with him and Jay-Z is now, but I know in the early the beginning of their relationship, he was not really enjoying it. Like he enjoyed being wined and dined by Jay to sign with him, but he didn't like
of course, right?
he didn't like it once he was in it. Obviously, Jay-Z's another famous rapper who he owns the masters to all his
Huge.
owns all the rights, and that's a big deal. That's why I'm happy for Hecz in this situation, man, because no matter what happens next, he's taking ownership back of something that he created. And that's something I would like to see for a lot of these guys, man. It's something I think that's the one thing I really enjoy about watching a lot of content creators and wondering if there's someone in the background coaching them, like, hey, you need to be trademarking these things that you're doing.
I think to own a trademark on a name, right? Specifically like Shroud. Shroud can't own the trademark on Shroud, I believe. He'd have to have a lot of proof that he's the only one, A, that uses it, and B, it's not synonymous with something else, right? Is a big reason why Google doesn't allow people to say, hey, I'm gonna go Google that on TV shows, right? So if that becomes synonymous with the word search, then you can't own a trademark or a patent on that on Google anymore. And I believe that's also why they restructure their company to be owned by something else. Therefore, it could be an asset and not a company. And huge. It's incredibly smart by Google CEO, Alphabet CEO at this point.
Yeah, that's why Stevie Wonder had to make the Happy Birthday song the melody that he did, because you can't actually. Turns out
Disney
Happy Birthday. Yeah, you
don't even start. Don't even start. We're gonna get kicked off the air.
Yeah, one of my kids was singing it at Chuck E. Cheese and he disappeared. I had 4 kids. I'm down to 3. They took the other one, man.
Yeah, every restaurant has a different rendition of it because they can't, because Disney owns it or some shit.
We see a lot of the same behaviors with your least favorite topic of all, but comic books and Star Wars. So again, contrast.
IP.
George Lucas is the smartest idiot to ever do it. And I mean that in the most loving way. Like, you would think he would be a tragic tale to be watched on VH1, right? He looks like a guy that's going to get screwed over, but he didn't, man. He owned everything up until the point that he sold it for, like, I believe it was
billions.
Billions.
He made a billion, more than $1 billion off of it for sure.
But to get back to, like, if I'm going to dial back into the Hecz thing, man, like, I would like to see how he does this with the marketing, because when I look at someone, and I'm going to try to say his name correct, Nate Shot, and how he's done marketing for 100 Thieves. I think that obviously Hecz can do it a lot better, and I think there's more there for him, not just because of nostalgia of the brand, but because of what it is, right? It was a winning team. It'd be one thing if it was just something that was like, hey, this is they never won anything. This was an actual winning franchise, and I think it's good. I think it's gonna be great, man. I feel happy for him. And he's from Chicago. I like that about him, man. I don't like that he likes.
He's from Mexico, right? He was born in Mexico until he was 4 or 5. Then did a stint in Texas, and then they moved to Chicago.
Mexico, I like. Texas, you lost me against. Chicago, he's back, but he loses me at the deep dish pizza. I cannot stand that.
Portillo's, right? The hot dog place. They love that place. Yeah, I've heard that it's very, very good.
Amazing. What do you think? Since we're talking about these guys, man, what do you think is going to happen next? Just really quickly for a scump. I don't know why
he's a competitive player. Like that's it.
Yeah.
He's gonna continue to play for Huntsman. They've already made a team around him for next year, the 4v4 team. And that's it. They're gonna go forward. He probably has 3 more years. I would say he has 3 more years. If he doesn't if they get bottom 8 this year, right? Say they don't make top 4, he might retire, right? But they're a top 2 team, right? They have been. They always will be. They make a good team around him.
I'm gonna tune in next time. I didn't do good last time, but this time I'm gonna tune in.
It'll be better. It'll be a better experience. I think the new COD is gonna be better. I think it's going to be more fun. It's 4v4, right? So that's a huge difference. 4v4 competitive is way better to watch than 5v5 in my opinion, and kind of always has been. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a good year. I hope it's going to be a good year at least.
The 2 things I can compare it to, like, it was better than watching the Gears of War tournament. That was not a good time. And then I'm like, I love Rainbow Six. I'm going to watch a Rainbow Six tournament. That was like watching tennis. It was really, really quiet. It was really, really boring. So they won't be getting my view next year at all, no matter what they do. But I tell you what did get my view. I'm going to tell you what dumpster fire got all of my soul, man. And I couldn't believe that you told me that you were watching the presidential debates.
I watched it.
I just want to hear from you, man. As someone who doesn't really follow politics too closely, but watch that dumpster fire. What was your feeling? What was going through your mind the entire time you were watching it?
No, it was ridiculous, right? It was nothing shy of absurdity. There was no reason for it to exist in the facet that it did. I love the tweet from Rogan afterwards. It's like I don't need to moderate it. Big John McCarthy does. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's it. Dumpster fire describes it really well.
So let me just pull it in right here, right? So I know people who've spent their parents' money. They went to school for political science. These are some of the smartest people I know, right? I never went to school for it. I just learned a lot of stuff from watching and conversing about it. And just unanimously, everyone had the same cringe effect watching this thing happen. Yeah. So I know what Giuliani and Christie prepared Trump for, and I know what they prepped him for, and he got there and he went completely off the script. And even worse, it would be one thing if I could look at the other side and I was like, well, at least Joe's reining us in. I just kept feeling like it was my grandfather trying to explain to someone why his router isn't working. That's the feeling I get when I look at Joe Biden in these type of conversations.
Actually, to be fair, Joe Biden actually looked pretty good in my opinion. He stood up for himself, which is no one has done none in the debate stage with Trump yet. As well as you could look from that dumpster fire, right? I thought Trump arguing with the moderator for 15 or 20 minutes of the 2 hours or whatever it was looked really, really fucking bad. But it was hilarious. At one point, he took credit for Mr. Beast planting all those fucking trees, which was hilarious. He claimed that he brought the NFL back. I'm surprised he didn't mention the UFC and Dana White. Actually, I was expecting it to. I literally said out loud, I'm like, he mentions the UFC in the next 15 seconds or I'm going to eat a shoe. I didn't eat the shoe.
There was one thing that happened. So let me just talk about the moderator for a second. So that was what you call a classical okie doke. So he's a reporter over at Fox News, right? So Trump is walking into this. He sees Wallace, and it's like it's like me seeing you.
It's your boy.
Yeah, you got me, right?
And
you got me.
Didn't.
He did not have him.
I thought I thought he was fair with both parties though.
Absolutely. But
Trump needs a little bit of reining in.
No, for Trump, for you to have him, what he's suggesting is that you have to completely ally yourself. This is why he falls in and out of love with Fox, right? 1 minute he'll love Tucker Carlson. The next minute Tucker Carlson will do something that's unheard of, which is accurately describe something bad that Trump has done. And he's out there tweeting like a 16-year-old girl. This is the only reason this made it onto the topics. And this is the reason why we're not staying on this too long. I have never felt more embarrassed. Never been this guy to say this out loud. Never felt more embarrassed to ever be an American than at that moment, realizing, because I jumped in over to CNN World. It's the British and Italian version, and they broadcast.
They were all laughing, just collectively laughing.
There was a woman, one of the analysts, literally her jaw was hanging the entire time.
Yeah.
And I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like the part with the whole white supremacist and the Proud Boys, which they've secretly become my new favorite obsession on the internet. I love those dudes. I love that they're a bunch of meatheads, and it's like, come on, we're not racist. Wait, yeah. So here's the thing, right? I got black friends, and my black friend lives at least 400 miles away from me. It's not a lot over. Fun fact that the one of the co-founders of the Proud Boys is actually Latino, so I got to do a little bit more research on that.
I only know him I only know the Gavin McInnes. Is that who we were talking about?
Yeah, the guy that helped create Vice. No, I'm not talking about him. It's another guy because apparently today the Proud Boys and the Black Lives Matter, believe it or not, had a co-hosted a rally of some sort where the Proud Boys actually came out and denounced white supremacy, and we can't even get Trump.
Dude, that was actually fucking ridiculous, man. Look, hey, you just gotta say the words. And he's like, wow. You know, words, man. I'm like,
he like mumbled. He's like, white supremacist. Like, could you say it a little bit louder?
He's like, yeah, they're pretty good. I mean, Proud Boys. Hey, and I'm like, dude.
And then the crazy thing about it, he just declared. And I can't believe this is something new that happened, but he just declared the KKK a terrorist organization. Now, it's a little late, right? Better late than never.
Years too late or some shit.
But it's like he does it off air. He'll do it the next day, but on the spot, he struggles to just say something that would simply.
Well, here's the issue, right? He doesn't want to say anything that'll offend potential votes, right?
Exactly.
And he understands where his voter base is. Right?
Right,
Everyone does. Everyone knows where his voter base is, right? Southern white folk. That's it, you know, and idiots around the world. But man, I don't want to last on it too long. I actually don't really like political talk that much. The debates were kind of funny.
I really thought when Joe Biden called him a clown, that was probably the best moment because it's
he said it with his whole ass chest too. He's like, I can't believe this clown. I'm like, dude, are you all right? Like, did you sneeze that out? He's like, oh, excuse me. I'm like, ooh.
Joe Biden is definitely that angry old guy. You show up at like JCPenney's and he's arguing with the ladies like, no, these are not classical loafers. I know what a loafer looks like.
Is he my like, dad?
Yeah, basically. And here's a crazy thing, right? So there's this thing that happens, right? Last bit I'm going to say about this is this thing that happens with partisan politicians and in politics where people can't admit where their side looks bad, right?
Sure.
Unanimously, every conservative and Democrat all agreed that like this was not our finest moment. But you know who was extremely happy was the third party that had been squeezed out of this election. I just realized there's no real third party representative that was even given.
There's one polling at 2%. Right?
Yeah,
but polling at 2% doesn't mean anything. You can't even get onto the debate stage unless you're polling above that, I believe, right?
I would love to get on the debate stage. I would just literally.
To be there?
I would make this face the entire time. Like I know nothing of finances or economics. I don't know how we're going to stop crime.
You know how easy it would be? You know how easy it would be to out debate both of those two idiots?
I would just fight him. I'm literally worried about Joe Biden. I feel like I'll try to rush him and he'll just be like, you made a mistake, boy. and just ankle pick me in front of it. No, I didn't mean boy that way. Like he, you know.
No, even though you did. That's exactly what he would say.
He's actually right now, poor Joe is trying to clean up some stuff that's coming up from his past. And we can't talk about it on air because we don't need that type of smoke. But man, let me just tell you, I don't know who these people are that find these quotes and find these old news articles, but I didn't want to believe that Joe Biden had said these things. And I'll leave you with this. He definitely said, I did not want my kids going to a school that was like a jungle. Now, there's a whole bunch of context to that.
Dude, Joe Biden's from the era that the N-word was completely acceptable from both sides. They thought.
You know what? I would love if we could do a hot tub time machine. Could you imagine bringing a good old school 1968 racist to today? Like he would flip. He would absolutely. It would be an amazing moment to watch in history, man. But that's all I got for the.
That's it. That's all I got too.
That's all I got for the debates.
Let's roll this straight into the fact that Trump is now COVID positive. Him and his wife.
Yes.
Listen.
Yes. I feel bad for her.
I don't. Yeah, I do too. Although, did you just hear some of the stuff that she said recently
No,
on those
what'd you
tapes
say?
that came out?
What'd you say?
So you gotta listen to these tapes, dude. The Melania tapes are hilarious.
Mm.
They at one point they ask her about or say something to her about the kids are getting at the border wall getting separated from their parents. She's like, "Give me a fucking break," and I'm like, "Oh,
No.
she's just as bad." Oh,
Wait, was it a hot mic or did she not know?
I think it was a leak. I think it was like a leak where some shit got leaked and they're trying to cover it up. So, all right, whatever, right? I don't have an extensive knowledge on that. Whatever it is. It's awful what she said. Kind of funny. Awful what she said. Awful the act, right?
Yeah.
I fully suspect that Trump doesn't actually have COVID.
You know what? You're the third person to say that, and I want to hear you out on this. Why do you think that?
He doesn't want to get back on a debate stage.
But see, here's the thing.
That's my only reason. Listen, most likely the guy does have it, right?
Yeah.
He got flown to Walter Reed Medical, whatever, right? Like apparently they parked the helicopter in such a way that the media couldn't see it because they're afraid that the guy actually can't fucking walk. But I legitimately think he doesn't want to get back up on the debate stage and look as bad as he did in that first debate. Because he can't control himself.
So here's the crazy thing about this whole situation, right? So it's negative to negative. So he could be faking it, and it's still going to be a negative for him because he's now had to admit in front of his base. And I'm not even talking about I'm not disagreeing. Exactly. I'm not disagreeing with Trump supporters right now. I'm not here to disparage your candidacy. We can talk about that stuff outside of the show. No, what I am saying to is that
he's the candidate. He won the election, right? Like you can't disagree to that.
No, but the biggest part of his market of himself, his cornerstone is his masculinity. If you go back and look at everything leading up to this point, is that he has literally spoken to the fact that I am the candidate that will not back down. And as of late, he is the candidate that has not outright said that COVID is a hoax, but has not really fostered.
He is on record saying that at one point or another. Back in February, he said it was a hoax. He literally directly got quoted saying it was a hoax.
I think he said we have to fact check. But I think he was leaning more towards hysteria, and then he finally came in. He said the disease is real, but people were acting hysterically. But this is the irony of the situation, right? So let's say he doesn't have it right now. Does that impact him? I think so. I think all those bikers that were out there in Ohio that were flying Trump banners, the guys who didn't want to wear a mask, they see this and they see their patron saint is actually scared inside the hospital. This is as bad as him lying about being taken down to the bunker during the George Floyd situation. You remember?
Yeah. He was in the bunker because I believe the protocol is when the lights go out in the White House, generally the president is somewhere hidden, right? For a specific reason.
This don't need to be ashamed. I'd be like, get my ass down to the bunker now. I don't know what's happening.
They can have rocket launchers to fire out these impenetrable walls.
That one's really skinny. They're climbing through the gates right now. And then on the other side of this thing, man, on the other side of it, if he does have it, so Boris Johnson, the prime minister over in England, it's Trump's twin, essentially. They're kindred spirit.
Yeah.
He essentially has had a change of heart about a few different things. Nothing he's spoken on publicly, but it's been insinuated strongly. If Trump has this thing, man, I would like to see how he's going to come back for it. And if he's
Boris Johnson had it and was in the hospital.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah, he almost died. He almost
died.
It would be interesting to see how his base is going to react to him getting sick. But
they don't.
Man, I was gonna send you the memes that are going around right now, man. Twitter it was lit.
So you saw the one where it's the Arrested Development theme song, right? Is the one that everyone plays behind it.
Yes.
Of him on the debate stage. Yeah, he wears fucking masks all the time. What an idiot! And it's like,
dude, one lady just abandoned straight up, even trying to be funny. She was like, "I hope he dies. I hope he dies."
I don't hope that on anyone. Really, I really don't.
Oh no! I don't wish it at all. But I mean, there is a bit of comedy here, though, right?
It's
could you imagine?
So, hold on.
Can you imagine if Biden's texting him right now? Like, can I bring you anything?
Hold on. He's on his Twitter DMs, right? He's in his Twitter DMs. Hey man, you need anything? You need some soup? You need some hydroxychloroquine?
That's going to be the next step. That's been the next best thing is people superimposing bleach bottles over him. Remember, he was Trump was struggling to pick up his water glass. Someone actually made a picture of him drinking bleach. That's going to be the best part. There's no coming back from this. But you know what? Zach called it, and I hate saying he's right. When he wins, let's all remember these moments that we had, the good times that we had right now, because what happens next is probably going to be really horrible. He's probably going to be off the chain when he gets out the hospital. Like, if he doesn't die, and I don't want him to die, he's really going to think he's immortal. Like,
yeah, he's literally, apparently he's already showing minor symptoms, which if he shows minor symptoms this early, apparently the mortality rate is actually like extremely high. Amongst most age demographics. He's also not a very healthy man who's extremely overweight, who stands like a half centaur, which I never understood, and clearly has a bad shoulder or two because he can't lift up a fucking small glass of water. You know, he can't like.
And don't. Here's the thing.
I love when Steve goes through these moments of being completely dumbfounded because there's literally nothing.
I don't know how we got. I don't know how we got here. This was literally an episode of The Simpsons, and we are living it. And I can't run. There's nowhere for me to go. I can't get into Canada. They rejected me when I tried to get in. I can't run from my problems anymore. But I have some good news on this list because I
hold on, can we do one more bad news? I'm going to throw you a loop here for a minor topic. You're not going to care about this whatsoever.
All right, give me the bad news, man.
The new WoW expansion got delayed. I'm so sad. That's it. That's all I have to say about it. I'm really sad. I'm glad that they delayed it because for the reason that they gave, that they changed some systems like mid expansion and still haven't fleshed them out yet, which is, you know, whatever. Whatever. If you're gonna do that, that's fine with me. But I'm sad.
Wait, so again, for the uninitiated, that got delayed. So what is the state of it right now? Because we've talked about this a few times.
I've never played I'm not in the Shadowlands beta, so I don't know what the state of it is. I've heard from a few people that the beta was very, very broken. But no one came out and said anything until after they announced they were delaying it. Now, I think from what I've heard, it has to come out in 2020 or every pre-order from the EU has to be refunded. There's some weird EU like consumer law or something that that does that. So we're going to get it, but it's going to be broken, I assume. So sad, but you know, I'm glad that they pushed it back a little bit, try to give themselves some time.
Well, I mean, if you're pushing it back to make the product better, I'm all in support of that. If you're pushing it back because someone called you out on a bunch of nonsense, you're like, we really care about the customers. Like, no, you don't. Do you? You're like a stepdad that got caught cheating. You know, you don't care about me. You're not coming to pick me up for baseball. You're not coming back from getting those cigarettes. I'm sorry.
That got really specific. Hold on, I saw a tweet the other day. They were like, "What happens if you're a happily married man?" And your wife gets Thanos snapped and you don't, and she's gone for 5 years, and 3 years in you get remarried and you have 3 kids, and then your wife comes back because the Avengers happen. How do you go back to your pre-Thanos wife or post-Thanos wife?
So I'm gonna answer that question on air. One, babe, if you get snapped out of existence, I go get Thanos and I bring you back. You know I will. Secondly, any idiot that gets married in that type of world after that type of thing happens, you deserve whatever happens next, right? You like the woman's not gone for like a 5-year gap and you're already over it. No.
Well, I mean, immediately as soon as she's back, you get arrested for polygamy.
Unless you're in
Utah.
What's it, Utah? Yeah. Dude, have you ever? Oh, right, we're going off on a rabbit trail here.
I've never been to Utah.
Neither have I. But have you watched any of those documentaries about Utah and like polygamy and stuff like that? I'm not trying to sell you on anything.
You're gonna get on a list if you watch that shit, dude.
I'm gonna send you a link. You really
get
gonna
targeted
enjoy
Mormon ads, don't you?
Actually, that's funny that you say that. The people that owned this house before us, they were Mormons, and we still get stuff from their the temple and stuff. And every once in a while, I read it, and I'm just like, "Well, that was a bad mistake." I throw it in the trash.
Let's be fair, they're very nice people. But
yes, absolutely.
You know, Utah, you can't have like alcohol over 3% or beer over 3% alcohol.
See, but it's like the same thing in LA where you can't drink after 2, or it used to be in New York City you can't have a beer on Sunday before 11 a.m. Like who Who makes these decisions? Like
Yeah, that's
pure,
like a bad decision if you live in
like
if you live in like
pure
Manhattan.
so now you got a bunch of angry drunks walking around with time constraints, and they're just standing outside the store waiting to get more alcohol.
1101, bitch, open up.
Yeah. So real quick, I gotta. I know you don't care about this, man, but this is huge for MCU nerds. This is huge for Marvel. The next two topics is going to be pretty big, and I know that you are following some of it to a certain extent, but this one you're definitely not. Kamala Khan, a character that's in Marvel. I can go into a large backstory, but she's most recently become popular again because of the Marvel's Avenger game. She's actually the protagonist that you play with for a little bit. She's the actual person that binds the story together. So the MCU finally casted her with a young actress from Canada, whose name I can't pronounce and I don't have readily available, but congratulations to her. Here's the great news about this, right? So there was a lot of stuff going around about the MCU and the state that it's in, especially with Disney Plus. Are they still going to be able to stay afloat? Are we going to actually get into these content? So any of this content. So we just recently got the WandaVision trailer, which looks amazing. We're going to get Doctor Strange to Multiverse of Madness, which is going to be amazing because they're bringing Sam Raimi back. And now we have Kamala Khan, who's going to actually have her own TV series on Disney Plus, which is a huge deal.
Wait, because is Kamala Khan Miss Marvel?
Yes, not to be confused with Captain Marvel, but we're gonna get into that for a second. So Marvel hasn't had
her name is Iman.
Iman, the actress.
Iman Vellani. Yeah. She's
young.
And she's a Muslim. She's a Muslim lady, so this is the first Muslim actress inside of the MCU, if I remember correctly.
And I believe they haven't really released the specifics of the contract yet, but it appears she's going to be with them for the next 10 years because she's officially the youngest person they've signed.
That makes sense.
To a contract. So they're actually looking to groom her and keep her in the franchise for quite some time. And the reason that's probably going to happen is I'm sure Mantis is going to chime in at this point. Captain Marvel, even though it did extremely well in the movie theaters, that was off at the tail end of Infinity War. But the character was not well received, right? There are people that had a huge issue with the character.
Yeah, they played the hype there, right? They played the hype.
Yes. They were virtual signaling, and it backfired in a big way on them with a lot of people. So with Kamala Khan, though, you get a lot of other properties that can be introduced through her. You get Young Avengers, you get characters who are associated with Young Avengers, and you see where I'm going with this. They get a franchise that will finally start to move away from the shadow of Robert Downey Jr. And so this is good news for the MCU. He may be coming back. We don't know for sure, but I know this is the first step in the right direction for them to start getting things rolling. Right now, they're still delayed. Everything's still delayed to like 2021, 2022. But the fact that they're able to hire actors and they're getting contracts out there kind of dispels the rumor that Disney is going under. Unless this is just a lot of bravado and it's like the impending doom is near. Also, another great thing about this that we're getting the castings now, we actually don't get to experience superhero fatigue. Now, you and I had talked about this one day on the show at length, and you asked a pretty poignant question. It's like, when is enough enough? Yeah, right. And then now we're gonna get this 2-year break where people can actually miss some of these characters, and there can be some space. And then you always get the WB screwing shit up in the background, failing miserably, just making your stuff look better. So that
the WB, I always forget that's a network, man.
You obviously haven't been paying attention to what's going on with them, right? You were complaining about too many Batmans in the kitchen. Guess what? You just got 2 more Batmans. That's right.
Is there 6
so
now?
We're going to have 3 active Batmans. One, the Robert Pattinson Batman, that's going to be that new movie that's coming out. Then there's another standalone property that's being worked on. And then a Batman that's been hired for like an Audible book, which still counts as a Batman.
Okay, listen, that's fine, right? The book one doesn't count. Right, the guy's just doing his voice acting. Good for him, right? You know, he should have hired me, but good voice acting, fine. There has to be a crossover where both Batmen meet each other and they fight.
No,
that's it. No, it has to be. What are you talking about? Yes.
So here's
there can only be one true Batman.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. You're gonna have 4 Batmen running around because you got Ben Affleck coming back to reprise his role as Batman in the Flash movie. And that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do if you're the MCU. You just have to say, hey, we might not be looking good right now, but have you looked over there lately? It's like what the UFC does. It's what the UFC does with Bellator. They're like, I know.
UFC's been fantastic this year. Shut up.
Yeah, they're doing much better. And that we should do an entire show on their turnaround because Do you remember when Yahoo Sports wrote the article, "Nothing without Conor McGregor" or something to that effect? That he's
No,
their
but it made sense.
yeah,
Last year was a bad year. Like there were some good fights last year. Obviously, maybe one of the best fights ever.
amazing.
But there was like a lot of cards that were like, okay, I don't give a shit about this. You know,
Yeah.
there hasn't been a card this year that I haven't been at least excited for 2 fights on the card, and probably one on the prelims.
Yeah, I honestly really do think that I'm not I'm not advocating for Dana White to get any more money, but I know that 5-year contract he signed is going to be coming to an end soon, if not
You keep saying
already. They have to sign him again, because if they think they're just going to shove Sean Shelby in there, nobody wants that. Nobody. I want him to stay right where he is with matchmaking. But at the end of the day, man, this is good news for the MCU. This is good news for Disney Plus. Now the one place that obviously Warner Brothers is beating them is with HBO Max. They need to get the content out. I don't know what the state of WandaVision is and Falcon and Winter Soldier. People are patiently waiting for these things,
Sure.
but they can't keep waiting because the HBO Max, something that no one was excited for when it was being released,
is incredible.
Everyone loves it, and
Yeah.
almost everyone I know has it, and they're like binging through shows because the catalog's amazing. Disney needs to play some catch up on this, and then that takes us right into the next topic, which is huge if you're a nerd. It's huge. So Jamie Foxx is coming to the MCU, and it's absolutely amazing, man. He's reprising his role as Electro, coming right out of the Amazing Spider-Man, which is a franchise a lot of people thought should never have existed. And he's actually going to be in the MCU, and he's not coming back as a different version of himself. He's coming back as the same character, which now really puts in there the fact that the MCU and Sony are working to merge the universes. So let me normalize that. What does that mean? There isn't going to be a Venom movie that isn't connected in canon to everything else that's going on with the Avengers and all this stuff.
Okay.
It's all going to be cohesive. It's all going to be a part of each other. And the reason that works is because no one cares about Spider-Man on his own. The story's been, I'm sorry, Mantis, you're wrong about this.
Redone how many times?
No one cares about Venom. People went to go see Venom because of proxy success. You've heard this theory before, right? It's like, this is doing so good over here, so maybe this is good as well. I'm glad it's all going to be under one banner. And actually, a bunch of news came out today regarding this information, how Kevin Feige was basically shadow approving a lot of Sony stuff. Amy Pascal was the producer who was in charge of the Spider-Man properties, I believe. Roy, correct me if I'm wrong. And to hear that Kevin Feige had his fingers in it the entire time, and now he's going to be even more immersed in it, I think it's great, man. This is a great time for me. At the age of 39, man, I've been excited for marriage, all 3 of my kids, and now in the twilight of my life, I get to enjoy comic book movies the way they're supposed to be done. You don't know how dark it used to be, Zach. You weren't alive when the first X-Men movie came out. You just weren't. And that was a huge disappointment.
Yo, yes, I was. Wait a second.
You weren't, dude. You were not alive, man. You could not have been alive.
Yeah, you know what? You might be right. I have no idea.
I was about to look it up.
I could look it up for sure. So what you got something else here, I assume, right? Are you excited for the fact that they're remastering the Spider-Man game a year or 2 after it came out?
Yes and no, right? I'm excited for my son, right? Because he'll get to replay the game when we buy him his PS5, and it'll be brand new to him. And the reason it's going to be brand new,
the first one came out in 2000. You son of a bitch!
What?
I was
the first
4.
X-Men?
I was 4.
Tell me one scene from the original X-Men movie.
Dude, the fucking brain guy was sitting in a chair.
The brain guy?
Yeah, the Magneto, the guy who controls shit with his head.
No. So about the Spider-Man remaster.
Was Magneto not in it?
He's in it, but you're talking about Xavier, man. You're trying to make me look like a nerd, but it's not gonna happen, dude. I'm not gonna be that guy that
literally have no idea. Oh, Holly Berry was in it.
Yeah. Yes, she was in all of them, right? Yeah, she was Storm.
Was she?
Yeah. How do you think of Hugh Jackman? This is the role that gave us Hugh Jackman, man.
Oh, true. As well as Wolverine. Couldn't care any less.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. I literally couldn't give a
Set me up.
fuck about it.
Set me up. You should hang out at hospitals and have people talk to you about their children and do that exact thing. I think that's a bit that would kill. It's just like, oh, he's 2? Oh, man, that's great. Oh, he's doing better, recovering perfectly. I don't give a shit about your kid. I'm just here for the women. And the thing that I'm here,
Probably not wrong.
the thing that I'm gonna love most about the remastered, right? And this is just for as a dad. So Gavin, this is probably the first game that Gavin beat 100% with my help. A lot of it was on his own. He's going to be able to replay that with the new missions, but because they have the new voice, the new actor, he's not even going to know it's the same game. He's absolutely not going to know it's the same game.
But
I don't have a problem.
Play the same.
Yeah, but they're going to actually add some stuff in it. I'm just talking about for my kid. So I'm going to get a free game out of this. He's going to play it again, and maybe I'll lie to him a little bit. Like, no, I know it seems similar, buddy, but it's not the same thing.
That's mean.
What?
That's absolutely mean. You're gaslighting your kid.
No, it's fatherhood, man. You know nothing about it. Here's the thing. Fatherhood is all about gaslighting. Just think about all the stuff your dad has probably gaslit you on, right?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. My dad couldn't care any less.
That got really specific. Here's the thing that sucks about this, right? About the remaster. You know this is an okie doke move, right? Like we talked about this on the show. So they're releasing that with the Miles Morales game, which further in my mind allegedly confirms the fact that the Miles Morales game is just a DLC. That's all it is.
It literally is all it is. It's a DLC that they're going to stretch out from 10 hours to 15 and sell it as a full-fledged game.
What do you think about them switching the actor, though? Is that a thing that would bother you?
Man, it's happened in games before, but not this quick, right? They couldn't re-sign the guy who did it originally to do it again.
No, they just replaced his body caption actor, the body caption actor. The actual voice actor is remaining.
Same. No, that doesn't bother me. I guess, the guy could be doing another project. He could be like, "What, dude? I already did this. Well, why are we redoing this again?" There could be a number of things going on as to why the guy didn't sign, and it's probably on his end as to why they signed someone else.
They got rid of him. They said this was something they announced. This is why I don't understand the public outcry about the situation. They announced this long before the PS5 announcement that when we do the remaster, he's gonna I'm sorry, I should correct myself. Same actor that did the motion caption and the voice.
Okay.
He's no longer the visual representation. They've changed the way Peter Parker looks entirely. He looks more like Tobey Maguire.
Yes, that would piss me off. Yeah, because listen, you're already repaying for a game that you've already played, right? You guys probably have 100 hours played on that Spider-Man game, right? And now they're suckering you into buying another version of it because it's going to take away from the fact that Miles Morales, this game that they said was going to be a not a sequel, but kind of a sequel in the storyline, is not going to be more than 15 hours worth of content. That's what they're doing.
This has got to be a record too. This has to be the quickest the game's ever been remastered, right?
It's 2 years.
Right.
It's 2 years across one console, not even really a console generation. Right? Like, how big of a leap is the PS4 versus the PS5? It's going to be 13% better or something, right? It's not like they're remastering the PS2 version, right? That I played years ago and then putting it on PS5. That would be sick. But no, they're not doing it at all. What it is they could not, after the first person reviewed Miles Morales, they could not sell 100,000 copies because it's going to be. They should have called it an expansion and not a sequel. They fucked themselves super hard by saying that it was going to be a sequel.
So that was going to bring me to my next point. Has anyone actually released any footage or a review of Miles Morales? Like, has anyone had any hands on it?
I don't
like no one's played like a beta or anything yet, right?
Man, under NDA, I would say yes. Right, there has to be beta testers. The people who are going to release stuff the day before it comes out, they're not the people who sign the NDA. They're the people who go to a GameStop and get the guy to sell it to them a day early so they could play it, right? Which, we're all guilty of. We've all done that. Well, you probably haven't, but you get Call of Duty a day or two early. It's a big advantage, right? The guns and stuff already. But we don't need that anymore because we have betas that aren't actually betas, they're play tests. Yeah, man, I don't think so. I haven't seen anything leaked on it yet, but I bet it's more of an expansion to the story than it is a true sequel. Because sequel implies that, that story either ended or we're continuing it, and now we're gonna either be the same length of the first game or longer, right? An expansion would be, hey, we don't have a full game, right? WoW does this, right? WoW does expansions. They don't do sequels, right? They're like, hey, we don't have a full game. We have a full, like 75% of a new story. So here it is, $30. You're going to tack it onto your game, and then when you're done with that, you're going to go into the expansion stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's more where they are than being a brand new game, and that's why they're remastering the original Spider-Man game.
See, and this is what you call it. If this is all true, we're just speculating, right?
This is pure speculation, but from a guy who's been around gaming long enough, it's an educated guess. Yeah.
Educated guess, right? But here's the missed opportunity with the Miles Morales situation. So that character, when he was released in the comic books, he wasn't well received, right? And he wasn't well received.
For the uninitiated, explain to me what Miles Morales actually is. Who Miles Morales actually is. I know he's a Spider-Man, but that's about it.
So Miles Morales comes from the Ultimate Universe, which is an alternate universe of the main Marvel comic universe. And in this universe, Peter Parker became Spider-Man. He also died at a young age. Miles Morales steps in, is the long and short of it. He has a very similar backstory to Peter Parker. He was exposed to the radioactive spider, except for the guy who originally wrote and created Miles Morales didn't know what to do beyond that point, right? And then also a lot of people got upset because they killed a beloved character, even though it wasn't the main Peter Parker from the main Marvel universe. They killed Peter Parker, and then this kid steps in, and people think that there's virtual signaling because he's a young minority, and he didn't go over well. He did have a cult following, and this is the absolute truth. He had a cult following, and that's why he stayed alive for so long. Okay. He was one of those characters that they just bounced around from book to book. And then I'm in my opinion, when they released Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, or Spider-Man Multiverse, I forgot the latest animated movie, that's when he was written correctly. And then he was released in the game. And when you play the game with play him in the original Spider-Man game, his character development.
You can play as Miles Morales already?
Oh yeah, he's a part of the story, and they worked him in seamlessly. When you play this,
it's an expansion. That's why they're fucking doing this shit, dude.
When you play the Spider-Man game, literally Miles Morales is introduced very early in the game, and he's put into the story in such a way where you become invested in the character, and you think it's going to go the same way as the Ultimate comic books. For what I'm seeing right now, they're literally going to do their own thing, which is Spider-Man is over here because we are getting a Spider-Man sequel, and Miles Morales is doing his thing over here.
Okay.
Not quite the Batman and Robin dynamic, but here's my issue, right? A lot of people we were expecting this to be the sequel. If the gameplay, if the story, if the frames drop even iota, you're going to see nerds react in a way that you haven't seen them react in a way in a long time, because it's bullshit. Now, this is why it's bullshit for me, right? I don't want to play an expansion. That should have been included in the original freaking game, dude.
Now, listen, expansions are fine, right? In my opinion, expansions are fine. Blood and Wine, as an example for The Witcher 3, is a fantastic expansion. It's like 50 or 60 hours worth of content, right? World of Warcraft does expansions really well because you get to a point in the story where you can't do anything. There's nothing else to do, right? And they do it on a 2-year cycle, and once you get there, right, you do the end game stuff a bunch of times, and everyone leaves, right? And you get an expansion that expands the story, opens a new storyline, but you're going to get another X amount of time worth of content, right? You're not going to get a full-fledged game again, but we're going to expand on the game that we already have. These are fine. I love it. I actually really do enjoy expansions. I'd rather have more expansions in games than like minor DLCs, right? Let's be fair. But what they're doing on how that it wasn't released as an expansion. It wasn't released as a DLC. It wasn't released as something that continues the story. It's like, oh, we have a whole other story we're going to give you in this other new game.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's a lie, and that's a sham. Really, it really truly is. And it sets a bad precedent for the consumer as well, because it's going to sell well. Let's be fair.
It's gonna sell like hotcakes. But here's the thing about the Witcher game, which, in full transparency, I obviously have not beat it, and I have not played any.
Me either.
But there's a level of writing and character development in those games where like you'll accept a certain amount of things because you're so immersed in the character, right? I think people would be okay with buying this game if we knew a little bit more about it, right? Like if I knew that it wasn't just going to be 10 hours and then it's like, oh, well, hey, we got you. You know,
Right.
like
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what the issue is, right? If they say, hey, we're going to expand on the first game, you guys already were introduced to this character and we're going to delve into his story, right? And we're going to do the Miles Morales expansion to the Amazing Spider-Man game. I'm all for that, right? I'm thinking that's fine. And $40 is about the price of an expansion, right? And that's what they're selling this for. But they're selling it as a new game, and I have a big issue with that.
You know what's another issue I have with the PlayStation 5, right? I need someone to come out publicly and address whether or not they're going to have some version of the expandable storage, because right now they're saying it releases with 856, but that's not usable. And I just had a huge conversation.
850 usable. It's a terabyte drive, and the OS and stuff is
850.
850 usable storage for sure.
Okay. But any news on whether or not we're going to have the ability to expand the storage?
There's because no news yet, but my assumption is these things are so close to computers at this point, a standard expansion hard drive is going to at least work.
Right. It's also weird that they haven't released their tests to the reviewers yet. That they have not. Xbox has already got their test models out to like guys like Linus, a few other people, and
industry people. Industry people have their stuff already. The PlayStation is having issues, and you had said this a few weeks ago, and I denied it from the things that Sony had said. I am fully on fucking board with you now. There is something going on with the PlayStation or Sony, right? It doesn't have to exclusively just the PlayStation hardware. There is something going on with it, and I don't trust it.
You know what would be a great power move with the whole Microsoft buying? What is the name of the company? What is the company
Bethesda.
Microsoft just bought?
Well, they bought Xenix Media or whatever it was.
Yeah, they bought the parent company. It would be amazing to me, and I said this before, and I know you said it's a reach. Wouldn't it be great if they just made a power play and just started starving Sony out right now? Like,
here's the issue: that they've already announced that the Bethesda games are going to be on all the platforms. Right. They've already announced that it's where they were traditionally. There are already games slated, and there are already games on Sony, right? There are already games on the PlayStation. They've already announced and come out have said that it's going to be on all the platforms going forward. So that's fair, right? That's okay. I give them that. You know, I don't know if they could. Sony still has the better exclusives.
Yeah.
You know, The Last of Us is a beloved series. You know, there's so many things that they could bring back in their wealth of a well and library that Sony has that they could bring back that would sell more consoles, but I don't know where their thinking or their mindset is at the moment.
Oh, it's not good. It's not good. That's what their mindset is. Like,
I can agree to that.
It seems like a cash grab, and I know, like, I don't want to get deep into their finances, but you know, their reports and losses a couple of years ago was not something to scoff at. Like, there was a point where it literally looked like how are they even going to be able to put out another movie, let alone make a next gen console or do any of these things? And so here we are, yet talking about Sony yet again. And the one thing I will say, and I'll wrap on this in regards to the Miles Morales game, there's one thing they can do to make it really, really good, right? If they do the story where they leave an opportunity for us to say, hey, we are going to hand the mantle over to him, and then this will be the last Spider-Man game, and you can enjoy Miles Morales, and we'll bring in all the characters associated with it, I think people will receive it well. But if they try to pull that BS, which is normal in the comic industry, where it's like, no, we want all the money, so we're going to release games for both of these characters, even though it doesn't make sense, and you can't have two superheroes with the exact same powers swinging around doing the exact same thing. It's going to get old quick. It's going to get old really, really quick. And another thing, if they don't address the weak enemies in the game, people are going to get bored of the game really quick. I think the only problem the first game had was the minion aspect, which was just, it followed that same formula. Beat 100 guys, fight the main boss. Main boss comes back a little bit stronger, beat him this way. So I hope they give us something a little bit more to work with in that regard.
Oh, in the Spider-Man game? Yeah, I don't see that you get that. Unfortunately, comic book games truly, in my opinion, don't have much depth, right? Because there is a lot of depth potentially in the comics. I've never read one, to be fair, right? There is depth there, but there isn't depth in what would make a game perfect, right? Like a game like The Witcher, for example, you know, there's no book about it. They could go so deep into something else as far as they want. And Star Wars suffers from the same thing, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, it's a linear story.
It's a
set.
linear story, and it's already set, and they're just recreating it. If they were like, if DC were to come out and say, hey, listen, they probably already have said this. I am going to, or we are going to say that, hey, the Spider-Man games going forward aren't part of the greater DC story arc. So we could go in and, is it Marvel? Spider-Man's Marvel?
Yeah,
I don't fucking know. It's not going to be part of the greater Marvel story arc. So we could go in and do things that aren't part of the comics, right? This Spider-Man isn't the comic Spider-Man that Uncle Ben died, right? And such, right? It is the video game Spider-Man, and you could go and do a million other things, right? There could be different people to talk to. You could be in a different city and not have it seem weird or out of place. You could have different people to fight and do a full-fledged, like, legitimate game instead of a movie recreation into a video game.
So it's amazing that you said that, because that's literally what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be an alternate universe version of Spider-Man where they had the license and freedom to create characters and do things, like bring familiar things in that draw people in, right? There are certain marquee characters people want to see, but you can also take this opportunity to create something great in itself. They're going to get a do-over with Miles Morales. The success of the first game was simply because of how beautiful it looked, and people finally got to play a great Spider-Man game.
Played
if
really
they think
well,
they're going to played extremely well, if they think they're going to get away with that twice, I don't know. Sony's only hope is this has to do well. Obviously, the Demon Souls games have to do well, and then if they manage to screw up God of War, I honestly think there's no recovering from that, especially considering all the things with the launch. Obviously, you're going to have your tryhards that are going to always defend and stand up for Sony, but if you look at it objectively, this has been the worst launch in their history.
Let's be fair. Both consoles fucking suck this generation.
Yeah.
Right?
It's horrible.
And Xbox doesn't have anything on a launch title either. Halo got pushed back. All this other stuff got pushed back, right, to not be a launch title. But Sony just seems to be fucking up worse. They're one downing each other, right? The next thing that's going to happen with Xbox is they're going to blow up, and then Sony's going to be like, well, we sold you one. It's literally going to wake up in the middle of the night and kill everyone in your family.
I watched some of the videos on the prototypes for the Xbox, and the one thing everyone said when they're playing older games, no new gen games on the actual new gen console, but they said everything looked amazing, and the load time in the games was phenomenal. It's
gonna be better. They switched to an SSD from a hard drive, right?
Well, I mean, I have an SSD in my PlayStation,
but you don't have the hardware to support it, right?
Yeah,
the software doesn't know how fast you're going. Right. Yeah. In theory, your PlayStation should work faster with an SSD in it, right? And everything should run a little bit smoother with it, but not to the extent of it being natively with an SSD, right? Because then the software is up to speed, right? Because your limiting factor with a console is software, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
It's also one of the upsides, right? Because it's a constant and that's never going to change, which is super nice. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things a console do right and way more that they do wrong, and unfortunately, we're really, really seeing that exposed this generation. Because I think, really what I think it is, I think there's more PC gamers now than there ever has been.
I would like to see if someone's done like a real comprehensive metric comparative, like where the PC gaming market's at now.
Here's an issue, right? You have 100 million users a month on League of Legends. That's bigger. That's bigger than both consoles, right? But like you'd have to compare like directly. What's the growth? Yeah. What's the growth of Call of Duty over the last 5 years? Call of Duty, I think, is a good example, right? Because it's a constant on the consoles. It's a constant on PC. What's the growth on PC over the last X amount of years versus how many players there have been or there will be on console, right? And I think that would be a really good comparison because there's not really many other. Well, a lot of games are cross, but some games are better on PC, and that's just a fact, right? Battlefield, for example, is a PC game, in my opinion, where Call of Duty generally is a console game. It really, truly is. It works well on the console. It's made for a controller, all of the above, right? But you couldn't, for example, use Counter-Strike because Counter-Strike is specifically made to use with a controller or not a mouse, and they tried to make it for Xbox and just never patched it and just fucking gave up on it. But that's classic Valve.
With CDL going over the and we were talking about Hecz earlier, CDL going over to PC. Did you watch Hecz video about when that news break and how excited he was for that?
I probably saw it, and it just wasn't memorable enough for me to remember, because it was probably something that was like, oh yeah, this all makes sense, right? Like,
First thing he said was something that you had said prior to that, and I was like, "Oh, Zach called it." Was the Xbox 360 remote? Is that the one that everyone
that's the one that
loves?
everyone loves. Yep.
Yeah, that was the first thing out of his mouth. He's like, "You get your 360 controller back." He's like, "You
Yep.
want you'll be able to use that in tournament." But that's all I got for the PC for Spider-Man PS5. Man, I don't want this to suck, man.
Listen,
I need this game to be good.
I don't think Miles Morales will suck. I just
It's
think
gonna be short.
it's gonna be short. It's gonna be very short. It's gonna be surprise you how short it is, and
Yeah.
that I think is the issue. And I think, I think once you play it once or twice, you'll probably be able to do it in one sitting, if that makes sense.
Speaking of Marvel games, I did just complete the Avengers about 4 nights ago,
Again,
and no, for the first I beat it for the first
we talked.
it
Did
was
we talk about this on the last show?
I can't remember, but it was freaking amazing. I can't the game was amazing, and I just feel like it's not getting the love it deserves for the story that it had. Like, I was not disappointed with the game. The gameplay, it sucks on console, but on PC, I had a great experience, and
Okay.
I was really happy. I was happy with the ending, and then we rolled right into it. There's still more stuff coming for it. I'm super excited for it, man. I can't wait for this Hawkeye expansion. I can't wait to see what they can do with Black Panther. I can't wait for any of it, man. This is a good time to be me right now.
You and gaming, that's it. Other than that, gaming is very stale at the moment. Is incredibly stale. I had to go back and play League of Legends to find something to play.
You know what? I am actually embarrassed, man. I'm watching Doc's stream the other day, and I'm always on the eye out for a mindless shooter for you. I was like, if I see something, I'll send it over, man. And I sent you over that war simulator
Squad, yeah.
And your response to it, you're like, yeah, I know about this game.
You're not going to find a shooter out that I don't already know about, or have some sort of information on, or even played at some point. Squad's a good game, right? Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Squad's a good game, but you need to play cohesively with a group for it to be a great game, right? And I don't want that. I want something I could go in, click heads, and then leave. Squad's not that.
You need the new Call of Duty game like no one I've ever seen before, man.
I'm playing League. I'm fine with League at the moment. There's not too much other than that I really care about at the moment. I could always go back. I have 1,500 hours of shit to do on RuneScape. I don't want to burn myself out, because I played a lot of it earlier in this year. I played 800 hours of it this year already.
You can always jump in the Rainbow Six lobby with me and my.
I will if I could play against your friends. That's all that I want. It'll take me 3 games to figure out their play style, and in the game number 4, I might be able to win.
They're definitely better on PS4, but they're no slouches on PC. But
sure,
they're definitely better on PS4. Like, watching them play on PS4, I'm like, oh man, this is depressing.
They've done it. I've never played it on PS4. I haven't played a shooter on PlayStation. I played the beta or the alpha of Call of Duty, to be fair, but I played 2 games. But I'd have to play on PC. It would take me 3 games. It would take me 3 games to warm up, especially if I was playing against them, to their play style. How many of them are there?
It's like 5 of them.
5 of them? I can get 5 together to play Rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know what? Actually, let's scrap that. I don't want to do that, because then it's going to put us in direct competition. I'm going to be the weak link on their team. They're going to turn on me. They're more abusive in shooters.
I thought you were going to be on my team.
Oh, no, I can't do that. I know these guys. They're like, they're like, some of them a godfather to my children. It'd be insulting if I set them up to get killed. Lastly, but not least, speaking about screwed up releases,
man, there have never been a fucked up release better than the Nvidia RTX 3000 series release, man. There has not been a release I've ever seen that's been better. Maybe SimCity from like 2013, whatever. That was a fucked up release, so bad that they actually had to like start refunding games because of it. But yeah, I haven't seen a fucked up release this bad in a long time. They're delaying the 3070. Now, to be fair, they said they were delaying the 3070 so they could have enough in stock that people would actually be able to purchase them.
Yes.
That I like, and I like their reasoning, but they should have never released the 3080 or the 3090 with that scenario, you know?
Yeah.
They should have had their manufacturing figured out prior to fucking selling the thing.
But you know what's crazy is the guy over at Gamer Nexus, he called this, man, even before they did their friggin' their reveal. He's like, there's no way they have enough supplies. He's like, there's no way they have it. They're not able to get the materials they need. They can't, you know, it's hard to get anything out of China right now, but no one wanted to believe it. And here we are with this, the 3070, the card I was counting on. This was my card, man. It's
still going to be fantastic from what I've heard. Now, here's okay, so there was a leak on what they call Big Navi, right? Did you hear about this?
Yes, so they did.
That
the
3060 is going to compete with it, their high-end card. The leak coming out of the AMD camp. Now, AMD processors, I think they just released new processors potentially that are better than the Intel for gaming at the moment, right? And I will concede that is fine, right? AMD has been made a huge comeback over the last number of years. Congratulations to AMD. You guys have killed it, right? But fucking give up on the graphics card, dude. I know that there needs to be something there for Nvidia to push Nvidia better, and AMD clearly doesn't want to do that. They want to be in their own market. They want to think that they're better than AMD or Nvidia. But holy shit, I heard that the big Navi card, the one that's supposed to compete with the 3080, is going to either get beat by the 3060 or a potential 3060 Ti. And it would beat that. So it's less than the 3070.
You know what the crazy thing about the AMD card is? People are still kind of rinsing their mouths from the bad experience with the driver issue. Do you remember this?
Dude,
but
people who are fanboys of anything look past this kind of stuff eventually.
Good point.
I know the driver issue, and it's happened. Intel chipset drivers had a major issue last year, right? When they left a back door open to get into your PC fairly easily, actually through a custom BIOS-ish, right? Or a BIOS hack. Very easy.
Yeah.
People look past it. I look past it. You know, they put a chipset driver out and fixed it, which I don't believe they fixed it, but fixed it, and people look past it, right? People are going to look past this AMD stuff. No one cares about a bad driver. It happens, right? Bad drivers happen for every single product on the market, regardless of what it is. So, you know, you make one bad driver out of a, I don't know, thousands that they've made. Who cares?
Yeah, it was just the amount of time it took them to get the fix, but obviously not as bad as some of the stuff that we're seeing happening, not directly at Nvidia, but with their partners. I'm sure you've heard about this with the partner cards having capacitors that are overheating and people are getting blue screens, cards are completely bricking. Now, whether or not this is a widespread issue, and this is specific to the 3080. Yeah, this is specific to the 3080, but it's an issue, man. It's an issue, and it should be an issue to consumers. You should be concerned about driver loss and lack of support. It happens, but it shouldn't be to the point where the company is just kind of like,
I'm gonna butcher this. They're using some sort of chipset cap that is cheap, and it's backfiring on them. MLCC caps or something, I think is what they're called. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. I'm not that into specific hardware inside of hardware, but or capacitors or whatever that they're using, and they're causing malfunctions. Now, listen, that's a manufacturing issue. That the next round of GPUs that come out, I would assume probably could have that fixed. Board partners should have that fixed by now, right? The Asus Strix, when it comes out, won't have that issue essentially. So, you know, it is what it is, right? I don't know exactly what the issue is. I half-assed know, but that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, it was Jay that kind of, not Jay who broke it, but Jay broke the story about the person.
What the fix was and what it was. That's the one that I watched. That's the one that I watched. He's been doing a lot of really good coverage on the 3000 series.
Actually, you know what? If you're a fan of Jay's, Jay Sucent, man, he has not let his fan base down. He was, even from the reveal up until this point, he's made the best content on it, and I think people have been able to make a lot of informed decisions. I actually think he's a great middle point between Linus and Gamer Nexus, because Gamer Nexus can go really deep into stuff where you're kind of like, I didn't understand half.
What does this mean?
Like, oh, yeah, teraflops. I understood that word, and then like, but this is It's been a bad release, man. It's to be expected with everything going on in the world right now. But I just think there was an opportunity for people to say, "Hey, we're not going to have what you guys. We're not going to have it. We're just not." And now with the 3070, let's see if they actually keep the October 29th date and how people react to that.
Sure, I 100% agree.
So you got me, bud. That's it. That's all.
That's it. Oh, you don't have anything else? I was waiting. I felt like there was follow up to that. I don't have any other topics, man. I don't. I think this is the shortest show we've done in a long time.
I know this one might actually
hour and 20 minutes.
I might actually be able to take this to the fellowship of YouTubers, and they won't poo poo on me.
No, those guys are idiots. I'm sorry.
You want to tell the people where they can find us and what they can expect from us next week, bud?
I don't plan that far ahead, but you guys can find us everywhere. Talking with a Dad, Twitch, or not Twitch. We don't do Twitch. What is Twitch? YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is the word that I was looking for. Every one of your favorite podcasting applications, websites, fucking Pinterest. I think Steve made one as a lark.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I've been trading with the moms. I got some great pumpkin spice recipes for.
Send those over, actually.
Yeah, I will.
Shout out the audio listeners. Next week, you guys are getting the final interview that we have done so far. The King Cash episode, great episode in my opinion. All four of the interviews were some of the best stuff that we've done. Going forward, we're going to be doing these live streams, I believe only on Fridays starting out, until we get our logistics works out on what the time frame and how much effort we're going to need to put in before and after the show to make it live streamable, right? So shout out the live stream viewers. You guys have been fantastic. Thanks for the input tonight. I think that's it. Were those the propers, Stevie?
Those were the propers. See you next week.